Good Tuesday morning, Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. This is an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness, powered by the Yes Team Realtors. A lot on today's docket. The governor of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, in the news yesterday afternoon with some reopening plans and some reopening news. We're going to cover that with Keith Smith in a matter of moments, the distinguished gentleman. Christopher Brement's going to join us, Bramante Homes. We're going to talk construction, home building, custom homes here in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We may welcome Donnie Wyatt, Chief Executive Officer of Co-Construct, to the program at the bottom of the hour. Before we do, Judah Wickhauer, studio camera. Keith, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, my friend. Looking forward to today. Got to tell you, love that pink pocket square.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a bit jealous.
Thank you. Ralph, the governor?
Yeah, so Ralph, huh? That's what we're calling him?
Reopening news.
Yeah. So for those who are not aware, he's put together a forward Virginia blueprint, and I think Jerry will have some slides that we're going to put into it. This is a big step forward. On some of the commissions and boards I sit on, I get a little bit of a heads up, so I got that early yesterday morning that they're going to do this. So in basics, it's about the governor's expecting, from what I'm hearing internally, that on the evening of 12 o'clock on the 14th, we're going to go into phase one on the 15th. And part of what's going on here is he's telegraphing out to the business community that what's going to be happening here is there's going to be guidelines for each industry. So, for instance, both of us are in desperate need of a haircut.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So barbers, there's going to be a certain protocol for barbers, and they're going to be getting this out. Again, that's the word I'm hearing internally from some of my connections in the governor's office over the next 5 to 7 days in it. But the phase one is what it's going to look like, and he's calling it safer at home. So, it's not going to be a stay-at-home order, but it's going to be a safer at home, and it's going to encourage folks that are vulnerable, right, that are over a certain age, have underlying health scenarios. They're going to maintain the no social gatherings over 10, continued social distancing. They're going to continue teleworking. This is in phase one. Face coverings going to recommend it in public, and they're going to start easing limits on business and faith communities. So that's the point where in the next couple of days, what this actually means, right? So, okay, how does his barbershop, for instance, right, open up, right?
His image barbershop, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
exactly right. So how that opens up. So that's going to be pretty exciting stuff. What the guidelines are going to be: physical distancing, right? Enhanced cleaning and disinfection, and enhanced workplace safety. But this is an important thing. If you read through his speech and some of the data, this is projected to last 2 to 4 weeks, so somewhere around the 15th plus.
So how does it apply to real estate? It's a real estate show.
So, hey, that's a great thing. So this has all just happened yesterday. Actually,
can we have open houses?
Well,
can we sell homes? Can we get inventory moving to the closing table?
So first of all, homes are selling. And I love you, first of all. And, my interpretation of this, and this is why the guidelines have to come out. So if they're saying 10 or less, then you could conceivably have an open house. But this is a decision that CAR's executive committee needs to make, which Tom and all those folks over there. But as I'm reading through this and the connections that I have over there, that this is a potential that they could open up open houses as of after the 15th. Again, so these limits on specific businesses are doing it. Now, I will give a shout out to my community.
Yeah.
We did this right? When this came in, I mean, everybody respected the no open house requirement on it, and we've been, to answer your...
Andre Xavier says very broad guidelines. It's going to create a lot of confusion. I agree with that to a certain extent, Andre, and I think we're slowly figuring out what this is going to look like as we reopen. This is just the first stage. He's going to continue with these afternoon press briefings, offering more clarity, but it's very clear that anyone that's watching this program, this network, that the governor's office has felt pressure to reopen the economy much quicker than a medical doctor would have liked to have opened. Because he wanted to do it in June. And now it's happening in May.
Well, if you listen to the press conference and read the data that he has there, it's based on data. And that's...
Well, a lot of his criteria is not being met for reopening.
Correct.
And he's still reopening it.
Correct.
You know that, right?
I understand that. And,
yeah.
And he's opening that... And Xavier is 100% right? So that's where you're going to. I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more detailed on the protocols in the next couple of few days. But if you do the math, you know what they're looking at doing is phase 1 is somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks. In phase 2, they have to meet certain criteria to get there, but that's going to basically keep the stay at home. For the vulnerable populations, they're going to jump the social gatherings to 50, continue telework, and continue face coverings. But before we get to phase 3, we're basically looking in August at this point, if you add their math up.
Here's the question, and a lot of realtors watching the program, a lot of businessmen watching the program, businesswomen, a lot of leaders in the community here. I agree with Andre Xavier. Tim Ryan's making the question, making the comment. A lot of people are going to be uncertain whether they can go to restaurants, whether they can go to retail, just not sure what to do. Questions that I have that immediately come to mind that I'm seeing on social is how is this stuff going to be enforced?
Yeah, sure.
How is someone going to know if a restaurant's at 25 or 50% capacity, or at an open house, in Keswick or south side of Charlottesville or Louisa, whatever it may be, has less than 10 people?
Yeah, great question. Don't know the answer to that. This is all new territory. Nobody knew it, right? But at the end of the day, it's kind of like after 9/11. Nobody really knew how you were going to get in a plane again.
Do you think it's time? A lot of people watching right now. Do you like these moves?
You always put me on the spot, and I love you for it.
Well, asking if the economy should open is
yeah. So
that's on top of everyone's mind.
Yeah. I'm going to give you the politician answer.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Okay.
If the data continues to go in a certain direction, yes. If the data should change suddenly, then we need to go backwards. This is these protocols and these best practices that we've established, industries have established, are there for a reason, and I think they're working. I can tell you from our end of it, real estate is moving forward. People still want to buy, still people want to sell, but we've talked about this on the show many a times. We have implemented. I think the real question is, at least in my mind, is are we actually going to go back to the way we used to do business? And I think the answer to that is no.
What's that?
Well, I think you're going to start seeing, all of a sudden everybody's super comfortable with POAs. To close, right? They're super comfortable with doing home inspections virtually, right? So all that level of comfort has been growing, and it's actually making what we're doing super efficient.
I totally agree. I think your game is going to turn into a 1,000% brand game.
Oh, without doubt.
With this digital world. Judah, I'm going to reach out to Christopher now. Why don't you give a little promotion as we get Christopher on the line? It's ringing now, Judah, of who you got on the show.
Yeah, so Christopher Bremet is the owner of Bramante Homes, and we're going to talk a little bit about the new construction market during this COVID-19, and more importantly, he's the past president for the Blue Ridge Home Builders Association, and I want to ask him how his members are doing.
I love it. So, Judah, we have him on the line. We'll put him through. Christopher, your second rodeo on the program. You are live for Charlottesville, Central Virginia. How's it going, man? What's new in the world? Let's do this real quick, Christopher. Let me jump in here. I want to make sure you're giving great analysis here. I want to make sure the audio is good here. We're getting some updates from people that there's no sound. I'm going to check with Jude on the sound. You have your mic on your end. And Jude, are you doing everything right on your end?
Yeah, I'm checking the settings now. Everything looks good.
Okay, so sound and mic is on there, Christopher? Okay. Let's see if we can. We'll give you a call back here. What'd you make of his take right there? Let's go to you, Keith.
Well, first of all, that's the reason I brought him on.
Yeah.
Sharp guy. He kind of articulated what I was thinking. That's a UVA grad for you. A little bit better. You're 100% right. The different businesses are going to have different parameters. I'm really hopeful we can get to ask him some questions because I really wanted to see what his sales is going on. So I can tell you what I'm seeing in the new construction end of it, particularly the custom side, which is what Christopher specializes in. They have this backlog of contracts that they haven't gotten started yet. And you and I were having a conversation off air. I personally believe that we're going to see the third and the fourth quarter ramp up pretty significantly.
You really think so?
I really do.
Okay,
yeah.
I hope so.
And the only reason, just to take this and as we're trying to figure out the technical.
Yeah, Judah, what's the plan? You got to vocalize the plan here. Keep going, Keith.
So, not to talk, but there are backlogs of new construction projects I want to get started because people are saying, let's just wait to see what happens in, June or July, right, before we can pull it. And what's going to happen is particularly these new construction guys, custom side, all of a sudden they're going to get phone calls all at once. And I'll tell you, some of my clients that we're working with on, matter of fact, they're going to get a phone call after today's show that we're working on custom homes. I'm going to suggest, come 30 days from now, when everybody's comfort level maybe start rising a little bit, they're going to start pulling triggers.
I think so too.
Let's start. And then what's going to happen is he who comes in or she who comes in first will get done first. But you now might not be able to get your custom home started until the end of the year. So, and it's the same thing as
I think the custom home builders are in for a unique position, and why I think that's the case is because I think a lot of mindset, and it's going to vary by demographic. Charlottesville's a little different than a New York City, than it's different than Atlanta. You're going to see a push for people going to a little bit more space, a little bit larger lot, a little bit more home. In case we have to stay home in the future a little bit longer, we want an opportunity to have an escape for our little boy, our little girl, our wife, our mother-in-law, our brother-in-law, so that home has to be a little bit more dynamic. We're going to see the onset of Zoom studios and Skype studios for people working from home. People are going to say, we need my house now to function as a home office, as a social quarantine escape, and also as a place where we live and raise our kids.
So spot on, agree 1,000%. So internet now is I've always felt high-speed internet was more of a utility than it's more of a need. It's like water. Electricity. You need that to function in today's world, in my opinion. But to play off of what you just said, Yona and I are seeing multiple offers on city properties, right? So that whole trend, it's really hard to predict. We talked about this with Greg Slater on Friday, right? It's hard to predict, and it's very specific, right? So, your location is very specific. If you want to be walking distance from where we're sitting right here, a single-family detached home under a certain price point, they just don't exist.
The really interesting thing about it, and something to consider, is how is the demographic, how is the marketplace, how are people going to respond to things like being willing to ride public transportation?
Sure.
And if someone is less likely and less willing to ride, say, a city bus, how does not wanting to ride a city bus or a city trolley impact, say, property values?
So it's funny. Yona dropped me off today. She is at the office, which is over by Ivy. When I finish with this today, I have my umbrella sitting behind me, and I'm going to walk up West Main Street, and she's going to meet me halfway down. So it's funny, we were talking about this on the way in. Thank God this is the spring. Thank God we're having unusually cool weather people can get out and walk around. If this was in October, November, or December, so what you see people hoofing around, you see people walking, you see people biking. Jan and I went for a walk this morning. There's a dozen neighbors that we had a conversation with this morning, just 10 minutes, hey, how you doing? We're actually doing our walk an hour earlier, so we have time to interact with our neighbors respectfully. One's on one side of the street, one's on the other side of the street, and we just, hey, how's life treating
And you
you?
really don't think it's a buyer's market? This came up on Guthrie's show. You don't think it's a buyer's market?
No, I don't. I think and we'll talk about this on Friday. Because
Well, we might have to talk about it now if he doesn't have the audio fixed up. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing because he's not giving us any green light here.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So it's funny. I was listening to Dr. Yoon from NAR this morning, and the basics of the conversation was the buyers expected the sellers. I think the buyers went into this thinking, okay, this is 2008. Deals would be happening, and the sellers did not do it, and it's quite the opposite. And I can tell you, in the last couple of weeks, we had a couple of transactions that we've done that went at or above list
But
price.
I don't think we've seen. And Jim Duncan talked about this on his blog yesterday. I don't think we've seen the ramifications of 30 million Americans unemployed, 60 to 90 million Americans underpaid, furloughed, underpaid, had their pay cut, 500,000 Virginians unemployed, and 30,000 jobs leaving the Central Virginia economy. I just don't think we've seen it yet.
Yeah. So do you believe that all of them are not coming back?
I think a lot of the jobs, and I'm just being realistic, it's not hyperbole, I think a lot of the jobs are going to be cannibalized by digital and cannibalized by the internet, and a lot of the jobs are going to go away.
Okay.
Do you agree or disagree?
It always happens. What happened after 2008?
Well, after
What happened
2000, after 2008, we created a heck of a lot of jobs.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it is.
In certain specific industries.
But-
Other industries, my industry, did not.
Okay, in real estate. But what I'm saying is from 2008 to 2020 to the pandemic, we created a ton of jobs. And the reason I know that is because all the job growth we created from the 2008 recession has been lost now because of COVID-19.
Okay. Give me your point.
Well, my point is, I think where I'm going with this is we don't know the following. Here's my point, multifaceted. We don't know the following yet because we haven't gotten to the point of the foreclosures or people not being able to pay the mortgages yet. They haven't gotten to that point yet. You would agree there, right?
I'm going to let you finish.
Okay, so we haven't got to the foreclosure tipping point. You usually have months, not 45 or 50 days like it's been so far with COVID-19. You have months before we get to the foreclosure tipping point. We still don't know the true ramifications of the economy because right now we're seeing the stimulus money being infused into the economy, and the stimulus money is keeping us afloat. We don't know if the restaurant industry is going to come back to the same job strength that it once had. We know tourism, weddings, vineyards, and breweries are going to take a long time. I think what I'm saying is, I think it's, and this is two guys at a barbershop talking real estate and talking life.
God knows we need to go to a barbershop.
I think the Q3 spring market is potentially hopeful.
I do not disagree with a single word that came out of your mouth. But it's important that some folks have been thinking that this is going to we're talking real estate now, obviously, is going to be right after the 2008, 2010, right? This is not going to be the case. None of the indicators are there. You're right about the unemployment, but nobody knows how much of it's coming back. Least of all, you and I. And least of all, anybody with a PhD. Nobody knows.
Yeah, but we're able to project, prognosticate, especially in a talk show, that's what you do.
Prognosticate. I got to look that up.
Yeah, it means predict. It means look into the future. I'm going to try him again, Judah Wickhauer, Christopher, on the line here.
This was fun, by
Are you ready to go, Judah?
Yeah, ready to go.
Okay, we're going to try him again. It's ringing right now as we speak.
Hey, Jerry.
Let's see if we can do it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is what I do.
I forgot for about 30
12
seconds.
hours a week, this is what I do.
I forgot for about 30 seconds there was cameras looking at me.
That's good. Christopher, do we got you here? Let's see if we can do this.
Christopher, save me, man.
He is on the line right now. Judah, we can see if we can get the audio. I certainly hope we can, because I was hearing what you were laying down, and it was super, super intelligent. Let's see if we can do this. He is on the line. Judah, are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Christopher, you're live in Charlottesville, my friend. Any discussion or thoughts on what Keith and I are talking about? I can hear you. I'm hoping the guests can hear you.
We'll find out here in a minute.
Yeah, so far I'm waiting on response here. Guys, let me know in the chat here. Keep going, Christopher.
Sure.
Oh, man, he's got such good stuff. Judah doesn't have it lined up. Yeah, we don't have it lined up. God, Christopher, I want to hear you so bad. I'm sorry about this. This is not your fault. This is definitely not his fault. We definitely want to get him in. I'm sorry about that, Christopher. I really wanted to hear what he was saying here. We got James Watson saying, your brother, we got a lot of comments coming in. The doctor, Ed Lauterbach, says, how much, Keith, will sales tax impact the community? That's something you guys aren't discussing here. We got this coming in right now about, we definitely think that the third quarter, this is from an agent, third quarter being the spring market is extremely hopeful. You're right about not seeing the impact on foreclosures so far, Jerry. Let's just hope that the spring market returns in 2021. That's what we should be thinking as agents.
Okay. No arguments there. I think I want to be clear. You know, we're not going to have a spring market like we had spring in 2019, right? But I just want to be clear, to have the fact that we're going to have a 2008 or 2010 real estate dive, I do not believe that at all. And it's not just me. It's when you get people like our chief economist for NAR and Virginia Realtors saying the same thing. You know, I'm just echoing what they're saying on that end of it. But, you know, still folks want to buy, still folks want to sell, you know, and I apologize we can't get our two guests.
No, I want Christopher and Donnie on this program so bad it irritates the bejeebus out of me. You have no idea.
I can tell.
It irritates the bejeebus.
You're beating me up.
I mean, I think I have so much I have to say about this because I'm so passionate about it.
Sure.
I think someone like Christopher, I think somebody like John Kerber, I think somebody like a Frank Bailiff,
Sure.
I think they're in a good spot.
Sure.
And why I think these guys are potentially in a good spot is because we're going to see social behavior and mindset change with people of what they want for their home. And their home has got to be such much more dynamic of an entity now than it was a little while ago, because we're going to spend potentially more time in it in different hats that we're going to wear in our home.
Yeah.
Okay? The question I have, though, is how long does it take for social behavior to change, or how deep of a burn rate do people have to allow that social behavior to change financially?
So the good thing is we're going to be doing this show for another year.
Good.
And we're going to find out, because you and I are not going to predict this at this point, right? But the thing I do know is, even though the unemployment numbers are extremely high, some of that's going to come back. Right? How much, nobody really knows, right? Nobody knows. You and I will never predict that, but it'll come back. I will tell you, I just wrote a deal the other day where one of the buyers were furloughed, and we were still able to get a loan commitment from it.
The buyer was furloughed.
Furloughed, yeah.
And
Very specific industry, though.
Was it medical? Was it medicine?
Yeah, I prefer not to say.
Okay. But that's going to be rare, though. Loans being given to people that are furloughed.
It was a very specific
industry.
It was not a barber shop or a restaurant. It was a very highly technical field.
So that person had tremendous earning potential.
Well, that's the reason I want to bring Donnie in, because Donnie's seeing this around the country. Like I said earlier, he represents. So, do we want to try Donnie?
No, we're not going to. No.
Yeah,
we're not going to try that.
Okay, got it. So we're going to have to see if we can bring these guys back in. Maybe try to slide in another show.
I mean, I'm just curious to see of what you think. And we have tons of agents right now. I'm curious to see of what you think is going to happen with the rest of the year. That's what everyone wants to know. And I know making predictions is not something you want to do.
I don't do that well.
Yeah, I know. I know that's not something you want to do well, but that's what folks are asking.
Yeah, sure. So from our perspective, we have not changed our revenue predictions for 2020.
Good for you.
We have not changed them. We also don't overinflate it. We always build pretty realistic
Models. Yeah.
And so we do a running 5-year business plan and a running 1-year business plan, and I've got a 15-year spreadsheet where I track sales, and this is for us. So will the volume across the board be the same as it was this time last year? Of course not. No. Showing time, Greg showed it. Showings are down. But is there going to be a wholesale implosion of the real estate market? Absolutely not. So somewhere in the middle is where we're going to be. And I think we talk about this all the time. This is when there's a ton of real estate agents watching.
You think prices are going to go down?
No, I'm not seeing it at the moment.
Well, what do you think is going to happen?
I don't think so, no.
Really?
Look, if the supply and demand...
Because Zillow coming out nationally, and now granted, Zillow's not a go-to. They're saying nationally that you can expect prices to fall 5 to 7%.
Sure. Okay. New York, L.A.
Jeez, I wouldn't want to own New York real estate right now.
Oh, my God, I wouldn't.
Maybe buy some.
Look, but when you do this for 30-plus years, you see these things, right? I remember in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, people were vacating New York in droves to come down here or go down south. So, look, it's each area is just going to be a little bit different. Real estate is always these 4 things we talk about, right? Location, price, features, and conditions. And there's micro locations, and this is where as agents we really need to do our homework. And my intent was to talk about all this on Friday. On Friday's show. I understand. On Friday's show, because we're now going to be 60 days pretty much into it at that point when we started, right? We started somewhere around the second week of March with this, and generally sales take between 30 to 45 days, a little bit longer now. So I want to start looking over this week versus the same week 12 months ago.
Okay.
When I have that data, then it'll be a lot easier for us to project forward. To look at Carr's report that came out, which was really awesome, but with all due respect...
Yeah, Carr's report, we throw it away.
They throw it away.
Yeah, Q1 means nothing now.
Q1 means absolutely nothing.
And interestingly, well, I'll leave that aside. Christopher Bremen has this comment. He says, confidence is what will cause contracts.
Sure.
We know each person is affected differently. This means each person's confidence will return in unique ways and timing.
So that's a great word to use, is confidence, because even though we're in this super technical business at the moment, right? Zoom and virtual stuff like that, it's amazing how much phone time we've been spending. Tremendous amount of phone time. And we're getting phone calls, not texts, not emails. We're getting phone calls asking the same questions everybody's asking on the feed.
Yeah.
From family members, from past clients. Is it a good time to buy and sell now? Right?
I think I've said it hundreds of times, it's an incredible time to buy a home.
It's without a doubt.
I bought a potential forever home in Glenmore on March 28th.
Sure. I remember it well. I remember
And COVID-19 didn't scare anything for me. I got a steal. The closing was automated. It was seamless. And everybody else was worried about the deals melting down. I'm like, we're going to stay the course. I think there's an opportunity for buyers in Central Virginia to save 5 to 10%.
Apparently, we're not doing this.
5 to 10. There's no guess, Keith. How can we do that? How can we do that?
Yeah.
This is called live.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So, so that's a lot to echo what Christopher just said. That's a lot of who you are.
Yeah.
And probably going to get myself into a little bit of trouble here,
Tell me.
But
Go.
there's a couple of meetings that I've been involved in the real estate community, and as you know, Yona and I do a little bit of coaching and mentoring, quite a bit, and it's just really amazing how you can have a conversation with one person, and they just look at this totally different. It's like children. You'll find out. You have one child.
Yes, I do.
When you have a second child, you'll find out.
Pump the brakes there, Smith. Pump the brakes. My wife is watching. Pump the brakes.
You need to have a second child.
You
So
sound
hold
like
it.
my wife.
Hold it. Now, I'm turning the tables on you. You put me on the spot
No,
here?
please do. Put me on the spot. You can do it. You can do it. You can absolutely do it.
Yeah. So when you have a second child,
There you go.
you will find that they're two very different people. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It always amazes me how two children from the same set of parents or multiple children can be very different. So each individual is going to approach this very differently, right? And us as agents, and I told this story a long time ago. I learned this when I was 18 years old, when I was sitting at a bar with the ambassador to Moscow in 1981, I think it was. And he looked across the bar. First of all, asked me my opinion, which blew my mind. And then secondly, said, you know what makes this different? What we do makes us really successful. What we do is we try to figure out how to communicate something to you in a way you understand it. So now's the time when you really have to invest in your client. You really have to invest in that relationship. This is not a simple text thing. This is not a simple, and I'm just telling you how we're doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know, but it's just how we're wired.
Yeah.
And we start communicating with people.
Christopher says, I see folks still planning. Some are signing contracts. Others have hit a temporary pause and waiting for their confidence to return. Dr. Downey, welcome to the show. Realtor Joshua Tracy, hello. Financier Jacob Conley watching the program. Jeff Tenery, who's going to join us on I Love Seville watching the show. You have 3 builders watching the program and 5 different real estate firms watching the show. This is what I would do. This is just one man's opinion. This is what I would do for the folks that were watching. I would, if I was buying a home now, find a property or a handful of them and make multiple offers on multiple properties and see what sticks. And I think there's an opportunity in this uncertain market for a buyer to get a home that 60 days ago was trading for 15% more than it's trading for now. And someone's going to say yes. And 15% when you're talking 400K is $60,000. 500K, we're talking a lot. 600, 700, we're talking a lot of money here. That's what we did, and it worked. And I think that's why I think it's a buyer's market. I think it could change. I think the fall. I hope Keith. I hope the students return to grounds.
I just read a thing about that this morning on Twitter, and then I'm going to follow up on that. I think what you're going to end up seeing is they're talking about some sort of starting off as a virtual and then coming back in. Look, the students will come back. They have to come back.
In the fall?
If not the fall, maybe late in the fall or whatever. But to say that they're never going to come back, and some folks are saying that, it's just wrong. It's just going to be different, right? Look, I'm an optimistic guy. That's just who I am, right? This too shall pass. That's been the premise of our 2 months that we're doing this. This shall pass. This will be different. Now's the time that you get a trusted advisor. I personally would never recommend a client to do what you just suggested.
It worked.
It may have worked, but what if 3 people signed the contract and said, yes, you just bought 3 houses? So
they're all contingency on inspections.
Yeah, well, I can tell you we would never have anything to do with
Okay.
that. So to me, it's unethical, but that's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
And we're going to hug after this show virtually.
I like it.
But
I like it.
But yeah, but that's just, we do business differently. That's all. That's not a big deal. If we're representing other clients, so you were representing yourself. It's very different.
Sold my house myself and bought a home myself.
It's a very different thing.
Yeah.
But once us as licensed agents do that, we have to counsel our clients. If you put multiple offers in, you have to be prepared to buy multiple houses, because if they all say yes,
that's not true. Mm-hmm. They're contingent on a home inspection.
you're entering into an agreement with the intent. Yeah, I really prefer not to have this conversation.
Well, sure. Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, that's you know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting topic for sure. Well, we'll follow it closely. You think the students are going to return in the fall?
Oh yeah. Well, the fine fall, but I think they're going to come back. The university has to do that, right? There is going to come on back on that. Okay. I do. I believe it.
We're going to follow it. We're going to follow it really closely. Well, I'll tell you what. It's been a good show. Friday, what do you have?
Well, so Friday's game was. Hold on 1 second here. I got somebody asking me a question. Yeah. So Friday's plan was to do what we're doing now, accept a little bit more data, and do that. So, but if we can work out the technical end of it, maybe we'll ask Donnie and Christopher to come back on Friday. But I was planning on Friday, just you and I
love it,
shooting the market as we just did on this. But that's our game plan.
I love it. I love it. Real Talk powered by the Yes Team Realtors. Back Friday, guys. At 10:15 a.m. on the I Love Seville Network, we have Chief Executive Officer Jeff Tenery, the founder of Moonlighting, on the I Love Seville show at 12:30. A man with global market share joining us on the program. Guys, enjoy your Tuesday morning. Take care. We're all fair, Judah?